everybody, welcome to my channel.
John Fitzgerald Kennedy, 1917 to 1963, often referred to as JFK, was the 35th President of the United States and one of the most charismatic and iconic figures in American history. His presidency, though tragically brief, left an enduring mark on politics, civil rights, foreign policy, and popular culture. Early life and education. John F. Kennedy was born on May 29, 1917, in Brookline, Massachusetts, into a wealthy and politically ambitious Irish-American family. He was the second of 9 children born to Joseph P. Kennedy Sr. and Rose Fitzgerald Kennedy. The Kennedys were a family steeped in public service, and from an early age, John was groomed for leadership. Kennedy attended Choate, an elite preparatory school, before enrolling at Harvard University, where he studied international affairs. His senior thesis, later published as Why England Slept, 1940, examined Britain's lack of preparedness before World War II, a theme that reflected his lifelong concern with global security, military service and World War II heroism. During World War II, Kennedy joined the U.S. Navy and commanded a patrol torpedo boat, PT-109, in the South Pacific. In 1943, after a Japanese destroyer rammed and sank his boat, Kennedy displayed remarkable heroism by helping his surviving crew swim to safety. His courage earned him the Navy and Marine Corps Medal, and the story later became a symbol of his bravery and leadership. Political career. After the war, Kennedy entered politics. He was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives in 1946 and then to the U.S. Senate in 1952, representing Massachusetts. His charm, intelligence, and eloquence quickly made him a rising star in the Democratic Party. In 1953, he married Jacqueline Bouvier, a sophisticated journalist and socialite. Their marriage and public image would become central to the mythos of Camelot, the term later used to describe his presidency. The 1960 presidential election. Kennedy announced his candidacy for president in 1960, running against Vice President Richard Nixon. His youth, energy, and confident demeanor in the first televised presidential debates helped him win over millions of viewers. At 43, he became the youngest elected president and the first Roman Catholic to hold the office. The Kennedy presidency, 1961 to 1963, Kennedy's administration, often dubbed the New Frontier, sought to inspire the nation toward progress and global leadership. His agenda focused on civil rights, space exploration, economic growth, and international diplomacy. Major events and policies. Bay of Pigs invasion, 1961, a failed CIA-backed attempt to overthrow Fidel Castro in Cuba. The fiasco was a major early setback but taught Kennedy valuable lessons about military and intelligence decision-making. Cuban Missile Crisis, 1962, perhaps his greatest triumph. Kennedy skillfully managed a tense 13-day standoff with the Soviet Union over nuclear missiles in Cuba, avoiding nuclear war through a combination of firmness and diplomacy. Civil rights movement. While initially cautious, Kennedy increasingly supported civil rights, proposing sweeping legislation to end segregation and discrimination. Space race. He famously declared, "We choose to go to the moon," committing the U.S. to landing a man on the moon by the end of the 1960s. Peace Corps. Founded in 1961, it became one of his most enduring legacies, sending young Americans abroad to promote peace and development. Assassination and legacy. On November 22, 1963, while riding in a motorcade through Dallas, Texas, President Kennedy was assassinated. The shocking event, captured on film and broadcast worldwide, plunged the nation into mourning. His alleged assassin, Lee Harvey Oswald, was killed 2 days later by nightclub owner Jack Ruby. Adding to the mystery and controversy surrounding the tragedy, Kennedy's death marked the end of an era. His presidency, often idealized as a time of hope, courage, and youthful vigor, became a symbol of what America could aspire to be. His eloquent speeches, particularly his inaugural address, in which he urged, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country," continue to inspire generations. Personal charisma and cultural impact. JFK's charm, wit, and style, combined with the glamour of Jackie Kennedy, made the couple global icons. The Kennedys transformed the White House into a center of art, culture, and intellectual exchange. His image, eternally youthful and optimistic, remains etched in the American consciousness. Conclusion. John F. Kennedy's presidency lasted barely 1,000 days, yet his impact has resonated for decades. He embodied the ideals of courage, vision, and leadership during one of the most perilous periods of the 20th century. His life, marked by heroism, ambition, and tragedy, remains a powerful reminder of both the promise and fragility of democracy. The Kennedy legacy and family influence. The story of John F. Kennedy cannot be told without recognizing the immense influence of the Kennedy family, one of the most powerful dynasties in American political history. The Kennedys symbolized wealth, ambition, tragedy, and service, a blend that captured the public imagination for generations. Joseph P. Kennedy Sr. The patriarch JFK's father, Joseph Patrick Kennedy Sr., was a self-made millionaire, ambassador to Great Britain, and a fiercely ambitious man. He instilled in his children a drive to achieve greatness, famously telling them that to those whom much is given, much is expected. Joseph's early political aspirations were transferred to his sons after his own controversial career was derailed by his isolationist stance before World War II. The Kennedy brothers, Robert F. Kennedy, 1925 to 1968, JFK's younger brother and closest advisor, Robert served as Attorney General during John's presidency. He was a moral force in the administration, particularly on civil rights and organized crime. After JFK's assassination, Robert became a symbol of continuity and compassion, only to be tragically assassinated during his 1968 presidential campaign. Edward Ted Kennedy, 1932 to 2009, the youngest of the brothers. Ted carried the Kennedy political legacy into the 21st century, serving nearly 47 years in the U.S. Senate. Known as the Lion of the Senate, he was a key figure in healthcare, education, and civil rights legislation. Jacqueline Kennedy and the Camelot myth. After JFK's death, Jacqueline Kennedy played a central role in shaping her husband's legacy. In a now famous interview, she compared the Kennedy years to Camelot, the mythical kingdom of King Arthur, a place of idealism, nobility, and tragedy. This image became a powerful metaphor for JFK's presidency, suggesting that his time in office was a shining moment of hope that ended too soon. Jackie also worked tirelessly to preserve her husband's memory through the creation of the John F. Kennedy Presidential Library and Museum in Boston, and she became an enduring figure of grace and resilience. Kennedy's political vision and ideals. John F. Kennedy's presidency was marked by a profound belief in public service, intellectualism, and moral leadership. He sought to inspire Americans to see government not as an oppressive force but as a noble instrument for progress. Domestic vision. Kennedy's New Frontier programs aimed to revitalize the American economy, expand education, and address poverty and inequality. He supported measures for Medicare, federal aid to education, and urban renewal, though many of these reforms were passed only after his death under Lyndon B. Johnson's Great Society programs. He also confronted the early challenges of the civil rights movement, sending federal marshals to protect freedom riders and proposing the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which outlawed segregation and discrimination. Foreign policy and Cold War leadership. Kennedy's foreign policy was defined by the Cold War. His handling of the Berlin crisis and the Cuban Missile Crisis showcased his ability to balance firmness with diplomacy. He established the hotline between Washington and Moscow to reduce the risk of nuclear confrontation and signed the Nuclear Test Ban Treaty in 1963, a landmark in arms control. He also expanded U.S. involvement in Vietnam, initially with the intention of containing communism, though the conflict would later escalate tragically after his death. JFK and the space race. Kennedy's bold declaration that the United States would go to the moon before the end of the decade became a defining goal of his presidency. His commitment to space exploration led to unprecedented advances in science and technology, culminating in Apollo 11's moon landing in 1969, a triumph that fulfilled his vision and immortalized his challenge to future generations. Style, charisma, and communication. Kennedy was one of the first presidents to truly master the power of television. His wit, poise, and good looks captivated audiences worldwide. His press conferences were confident and conversational, showing a new kind of leader, youthful, articulate, and modern. His speeches remain among the finest in American political rhetoric. Inaugural Address, 1961. Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. American University Speech, 1963, a profound call for peace and nuclear disarmament, reflecting a vision of cooperation with the Soviet Union. Berlin Speech, 1963. His defiant Ich bin ein Berliner address expressed solidarity with West Berliners and became a symbol of democratic resolve. Tragedy and cultural immortality. The assassination of John F. Kennedy on November 22, 1963, in Dallas, Texas, marked one of the darkest days in American history. Millions watched in disbelief as the young president, so full of promise, was cut down in his prime. His death not only ended his presidency but also shattered the nation's post-war optimism. Over the years, numerous investigations and conspiracy theories have surrounded his assassination, but the mystery has only deepened his legend. To many, Kennedy remains not just a political leader, but a symbol of idealism, representing the eternal question of what America might have become had he lived. Enduring influence. John F. Kennedy's influence transcends politics. His presidency inspired generations of Americans to pursue careers in public service, diplomacy, science, and civil rights. His vision of civic responsibility and global engagement continues to shape U.S. policy and culture. Institutions like the Peace Corps, the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, and the John F. Kennedy School of Government at Harvard stand as living testaments to his belief in the power of human potential and service. Conclusion. John Fitzgerald Kennedy's life was a blend of brilliance and tragedy, a man of intellect and courage, a leader who inspired hope in a time of uncertainty. His words, actions, and vision continue to resonate more than half a century later. He once said, "A man may die, nations may rise and fall, but an idea lives on." In that sense, JFK's idea, of a world led by courage, compassion, and conviction, still lives on. The assassination and its aftermath. The assassination of John F. Kennedy on November 22, 1963, remains one of the most haunting and debated events in modern history. It was a moment that shattered the American psyche and marked the end of what many perceived as a golden age of optimism and faith in government. The Dallas tragedy. At approximately 12:30 p.m. As the presidential motorcade passed through Dealey Plaza in Dallas, Texas, shots rang out. President Kennedy, seated beside First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy, was struck twice, once in the upper back and once in the head. He was rushed to Parkland Memorial Hospital, where he was pronounced dead less than an hour later. Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson, riding in a car 2 vehicles behind, was sworn in as president aboard Air Force One later that afternoon, with Jackie Kennedy at his side, her pink suit stained with her husband's blood. A haunting image seared into history. Lee Harvey Oswald. Shortly after the assassination, Lee Harvey Oswald, a former U.S. Marine who had briefly defected to the Soviet Union, was arrested for the murder of Dallas police officer J.D. Tippit and later charged with Kennedy's assassination. 2 days later, as Oswald was being transferred from the city jail, he was shot and killed on live television by Jack Ruby, a local nightclub owner. The shocking sequence of events fueled widespread suspicion that there was more to the story than a lone gunman. The Warren Commission and controversy. In 1964, President Johnson established the Warren Commission, led by Chief Justice Earl Warren, to investigate the assassination. The commission concluded that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone, firing 3 shots from the 6th floor of the Texas Schoolbook Depository. However, the report's findings were met with skepticism almost immediately. Over the years, alternative theories have suggested possible involvement by the CIA or FBI. Due to Cold War tensions and internal politics, organized crime, angered by the Kennedy administration's crackdown on the mafia, anti-Castro Cuban groups or foreign governments, in retaliation for U.S. actions in Cuba, a conspiracy within the U.S. government itself, linked to the military-industrial complex. The House Select Committee on Assassinations, HSCA, later concluded in 1979 that Kennedy was probably assassinated as a result of a conspiracy, though no definitive perpetrators were identified. Despite countless investigations, books, and documentaries, the truth remains elusive, ensuring the event's place as one of history's most enduring mysteries. National mourning and symbolism. The days following Kennedy's assassination were marked by an overwhelming outpouring of grief. Millions of Americans watched the somber funeral procession on television as Jackie Kennedy led the nation in mourning, her composure and dignity embodying national strength in sorrow. The image of John F. Kennedy Jr., just 3 years old, saluting his father's casket during the procession became one of the most poignant moments in American history. Kennedy was laid to rest at Arlington National Cemetery, beneath an eternal flame lit by Jacqueline Kennedy, a lasting symbol of the light he brought to the nation and the hope he inspired. Cultural impact and Camelot revisited. Following his death, the Kennedy era was immortalized in American culture as Camelot, a time of idealism, elegance, and courage. The term, coined by Jackie Kennedy in an interview with Life magazine, evoked the legendary court of King Arthur. Don't let it be forgot that once there was a spot, for one brief shining moment, that was known as Camelot. In literature, music, and film, Kennedy became a symbol of lost innocence and unfulfilled promise. From Oliver Stone's 1991 film JFK to Stephen King's novel November 22, '63, artists and writers have returned again and again to his life and death as a metaphor for the 20th century's turbulence. Kennedy's
Bye bye, thanks for watching, bye.